The top batch lead lists to pull for 2022. What's up, guys? Zach Ginn here, and in today's video, I'm going to break down my favorite batch leads lists to pull in wholesaling real estate. If you want to know exactly how to pull it the right way, this is the video for you. Before we break it down, do me a big favor and smash that like button and subscribe. And let's break this all down. I think most people, really when they pull lists, you're either going to use prop stream or batch leads. And I'm kind of a 50-50 type of guy. I kind of use both services. So I'm going to break down one of my favorite ones on batch leads. I feel like batch has a lot of really good stuff that PropStream doesn't have, and then vice versa to a point. But I feel like if you pull on batch leads, you can get amazing real estate wholesaling deals. And I'll pull some of my favorite ones. The biggest advantage I think batch leads has over so many other people is like the demographic filtering section, where you can go for age, income. You can go over like other stuff too. I don't want to break down this video, but there's so many great filters in batch leads, and not a lot of people have really a lot of videos on it. So I really want to break down the ones that I've been using for a lot. Mostly these are with SMS text blasting, just letting you know, like most of my deals I pull from batch are with my SMS because it's all integrated in there. If you guys want to use batch leads for free, get 5,000 free list polls. You can actually pull these lists for free while you're watching this. Just go to zachdata.com right here, and let's break it all down. So the first list you should be pulling on batch leads, if you really want to have good results, it's just not SMS text blasting. It'd be cold calling, reverse drawing for dollars, any of this stuff, is going to be absentee owner lists. And absentee owners is really good. Vacants to a point too, but I really like the absentee owner list here. Basically a list of people that actually own property, and either they're not owning the house, or they're not in the house, or maybe they have an actual tenant in there. Maybe it's a vacant property, but the owner in there is not in the house currently. Could be a second, third, fourth house. There's some filters you can do to get rid of that data, but absentee owner is actually a really good list to be going after. You can do vacants also, but vacants like no one's in there. Sometimes absentee owner, there is maybe a tenant or something in there. Those terms are really weird because sometimes I'll pull a vacant and somebody is in there or somebody isn't. It all is a little different, but absentee owner, I think batch is really, really good at it. The one filtering I would put on there is I would put at least 50% equity on those type of houses. At minimum, I really like the 3-year ownership there. That's definitely something I could tell you right now. So if I'm going to pull an absentee owner or a vacant house list right now, I'm going to have at least 50% equity on the deal and the filtering, and then 3 years ownership. There's also probably 4 other filters I'm going to add on these lists. I'm going to tell you at the end of this video to put on all these lists for a lot of success possible. And number 2 here, these are pre-foreclosures, especially during times right now. Pre-foreclosures are rising like crazy. There's just a huge increase in pre-foreclosures like month over month I'm seeing, and by the next 3 or 4 months it's going to get even bigger. So I feel like pre-foreclosure is one of the best lists to be pulling. This is hands down probably one of the best reverse drawing for dollars lists to be pulling. Reverse drawing for dollars basically when you put a sticky note on a house and be saying, hey, this is Zach, I had a quick question about the house, give me a call back. Pre-foreclosures, people usually 2, 3, or even 4 payments behind their mortgage. If they're not paying their mortgage, they're probably not be able to pay for renovations on the property, and they might want a quick cash offer on their house. This is an amazing list to be going after. There's a lot of great motivation. Yes, there's a lot of wholesalers going after these types of lists. It's a very common one to pull on batch leads. But what I can tell you though, is if you know how to market it the right way, it's a lot better. Really, when it comes to your success in wholesaling real estate, this video is going to help you with the list portion, but you could have the best list in the world. I think this is something I understand. I could give you the greatest list of all time, and if you cannot execute on the marketing and the marketing channel on it, or your script's terrible, you're not going to be successful at all in your wholesaling endeavors with your marketing. So it's very important you pull the right list right here, but you also got to understand you have to match it with the right channel. So let's kind of bring down absentee owner. So absentee owner, this is really going to be good for cold calling and SMS text blasting. Reverse drawing for dollar is okay. You know, like direct mail is okay, right? If it's not vacant, it's fine. But pre-foreclosure is a little different here, because in pre-foreclosures, cold calling actually sucks. You pull batch leads and you cold call a pre-foreclosures, it's actually going to be bad. And that's not because batch didn't pull. Batch actually pulls the pre-foreclosures really well. The problem is when you're behind 3 or 4 monthly payments on your mortgage, you're usually going to get a lot of calls, maybe from a loan shark, something crazy like that, from the bank, finance service company, the credit card company. You're just not paying your bills, right? And you're going to get a lot of calls, and you're going to think everything's a scam, and you don't want to answer anyone that you're behind. You know, it's a weird thing to be having, but it is true. You don't want anyone calling you. You get spam like crazy. You're getting put on all these crazy lists that you're behind on payments. You're going to have like debt consolidation services, cold calling. Like the amount of people that get calls when you're in a pre-foreclosure situation, it's terrible. So pre-foreclosures, actually cold calling is terrible on this one. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see is people pull an absolutely amazing list, pre-foreclosures to the 9 of a real estate wholesaling deal. But their biggest issue here is that they cold call. So I like SMS text blasting. That's probably if like you want to scale things out. That's going to be really good, and reverse drawing for dollars. Heck, a little bit of direct mail won't hurt either. But those are going to be the 3 things. And if you have any like questions about how to do that the right way, just go to freewholesaling.com. That is my free real estate wholesaling course where I teach everything absolutely for free on the wholesaling real estate process from start to finish on how to actually become as successful as possible in wholesaling. List number 3 here are the liens list. I know this is very general, but I've seen a lot of these lists that like if a property just has a lien on it, there's probably another motivating factor. And that's, in my opinion, if you add in enough equity on the property, you're going to be fine. And we're going to break down that equity filter list and everything else you want to add on these type of lists. But really like a tax lien's decent, a credit card debt lien list, IRS debt lien list, really. Any liens outside of like a mechanics lien, I don't really have a problem with. I feel like utility lien lists are really good. So like, one thing I could tell you is if you can find like a utility lien list or just go to all liens. So if anyone has a lien on a house and you get rid of like mechanics liens on it, you're going to do really good on batch because you're going to get all these type of liens that really like most wholesalers going after. So I like going after all liens actually. I skip mechanics liens. I actually skip child support liens also. So sorry about that. So child support liens and mechanics liens, I do, kick out, but like you'll get stuff in there like utility liens. So like if your water gets shut off and you can't pull that list, the utility department's going to put that utility lien on the house. So it's really good. You're going to get that little credit card debt lien lists, the IRS lien list. And a lot of people don't have time to pull that. So if you just go after all liens on the house and get rid of the ones you really don't, it's going to work really, really well. So the lien list is actually really powerful. And the next list here is technically part of a lien, but it's not. And let me sort of explain this. Now, if you're behind on your taxes, you'll be put on usually the tax default list. And everyone's a little different. Batch is a little different with it. Sometimes they default 1 year on their taxes, and that's a big one. Maybe they're behind 2 or 3 years. When you get put on the quote unquote tax default list, it's usually after 1 to 2 missed payments, which is yearly payments. They're not paying the taxes. Usually it takes around 2 or 3 years to actually get a tax lien. So if someone just stopped paying their taxes for 1 year, there's a lot of people actually do that, and they're not doing it because like they can't afford it. Sometimes people forget. That's why I like over 2 years on it. But number 4 here is the tax default list. They're not officially have a lien on the property because it needs a little more time for the lien to be put on the property. And a lot of wholesalers go after tax liens. So that's why I like going after the tax default list because they didn't get hit on that lien list yet. It's kind of a harder list to pull. Tax liens, I can just go on public records and get it. Tax default's a little harder. It's a little more algorithm dependent on there that batch kind of has going on there. So it's actually a really cool list to be going after. So these are people that are behind maybe 1 or 2 years on their taxes. Anything over 3, 4, or 5, maybe the property gets sold on auction, everything like that. So that is actually on the tax lien list when there's actually a lien on the property. So those are my favorite batch leads list to pull. Now, I promised you at the beginning of this video, what are the filters I put on all 4 of these? The absentee owner and vacants, the pre-foreclosures, the lien lists, and then the tax default list. Let me kind of break this down. If you're not a high-level wholesaler, and I'm saying that respectfully, like if you're not doing millions and millions and millions of dollars a year of assignment fees, you should probably stick to only residential properties. I feel like a lot of people, they pull like a lien list on like a land. And I'm like, well, do you have any land buyers? No, probably not the best to be going after. A lot of beginners land. Some do really well, but like you should really be focused on residential real estate right now, especially during these times. So I would like to stick it if you're doing under, let's say 500 grand, just stick to residential real estate. Multifamily you can add in there, but I wouldn't go over 6 units on these. It gets a lot more complicated, especially for a beginner. I would probably stick to residential, put that little section on there. I'd put at least 50% equity on all of these. I prefer, just on like a lien list, I prefer 60% equity, but I think 50% equity is pretty good right now. And this is the kicker, the next one. I want at minimum, so under the ownership information on there, I want to put 3 years ownership. The reason why I'm saying 3 years ownership is I want someone to own at least 3 years, because technically when someone can buy a house and then get 50% equity, they pay half of the house when they buy it, they have the loan on the property. They're really not as inclined to sell as someone who's owned it for 3+ years. Think about the absentee owner list. A lot of people do over 5 years, because if they have a rental right here or they have a property that's just sitting vacant, if they owned it for like a year or two, it's not really that much motivation. But once they own it for like 3, 4, 5 years, it's a lot more. They're just a lot more inclined to sell for a discount. The next one here is I want to make sure the properties are not on the MLS, not N-O, no, not on the MLS. And the last part is I want you to max out the value of the properties on these lists of 25% above the median home price. So if the median home price in your market is $100,000, max out the properties to $125,000, $150,000 if you want to push it. If you double the median home price, it's not going to be really good. Now, there is some leeway. If your ARV is under $250,000 for the median, that's fine. I would put 250 below. But if you're at 6, 7, 800,000 ARV, don't max it out $1 million or 800,000. Those bigger houses they're really not worth it, I found. So that is my key. Those are my top batch lead lists. If you want to check out batch leads, try it out for free. Go to zachdata.com. And if you want to see my entire tutorial on batch leads, just go to freewholesaling.com. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Have a blessed one.